Hello, everyone. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. Today I'm here with Jorge, and he's going to tell you all about him and his company. Take it away, Jorge.
Awesome. Thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be here. What can I tell you? Former financial advisor for many years that got turned into a real estate consultant. I've been a real estate consultant for the past almost 25 years. I've been featured at Forbes. I've done at least 3,500 transactions. There's no transaction that I haven't messed up in the past. So hopefully,
We
yeah.
learn something every time, don't we?
Absolutely. I've had the crazy stories for you guys, but right now I've owned a bunch of properties in Florida. I own several businesses. One of them is property management. We do property management in the entire state. We have an off-market selling off-market properties company. We also have a lending, and we also have a brokerage with about 50 agents that specialize only on investment properties. I've been doing all of this for the past 20 years. Came to this country not knowing English, broke. So if I did it, anybody can do it, to be honest with you. So hopefully
Sure.
we can talk about some stuff that some tips and answer some questions, maybe, hopefully, you know.
Well, you need to have a training business where you train others.
But we do actually, we do. We have the profitacademy.com. It does $1,000 for 70 courses. Um,
Look
and
at
yes,
you.
we do educate people on how to start the bird, the house hacking, the some sandwich leases subject to Airbnb, short-term rentals, you name it. We try to help people with those.
Uh-huh. And you said real estate transactions. Now, do you personally do those? Because you sound like an awful busy man.
Well, when I say 3,500 transactions in the past 20 years, it's been a combined effort from the team.
So you have
People
a
don't know.
team.
Yes, yes. People don't know that I was actually a wholesaler for 10 years prior to becoming a broker for the next 15 years. It all started with when I sold 100 properties. I signed 100 properties to an investor, and a couple of agents reported me as doing business without a license. And of course, I won the case because I had the proof that there were assignments and I have the right to market the contracts. But my lawyer said, might as well just get it. Because believe it or not, my friend, there's always this misconception, Linda, on wholesalers that if somehow they cross the line and become agents, that somehow the liability is gonna double, which is a total lie. Okay. As a matter of fact, the minute that I became an agent and then a broker, I was able to. You like Star Wars?
Uh-huh, I do.
So I was able to handle the light and the dark side of the force. I was able, yeah, I mean, I
May
was
the
able to
force be with you.
make the first thing with you. So I was able to know the wholesaling aspect of the business, dealing with distressed sellers, doing all of those things that often is not taught to agents. But I was also able to be on the agent side and benefit tremendously from getting commissions, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a big misconception when it comes to wholesalers becoming agents, which is completely wrong. I think if you're out there looking for driving for dollars, knocking on doors, looking for distressed assets, how better than to be a consultant? Not only offer them that you're going to buy the ugly property. You say, listen, if no, I don't want to sell it. Okay, well, let me help you do a modification. Let me help you do a short sale. Let me help you, which are the tools that the agents have, that the
Mhm.
wholesalers have. So that's when I became a broker and started taking agents and stuff like that.
I don't think people really realize the different types of agents slash realtors that are out there. I mean, I think predominantly when they think realtor, right, they want to sell their house, they call a realtor, but I don't think they quite understand the different classifications, and we're not all created equal as far as our capabilities and our skill knowledge on getting through transactions. And I know we kind of joked about we learned something, new in every transaction, but a lot of things can pop up in these transactions. And depending on how experienced you as a realtor is, or an agent in your case, where you weren't one to begin with, but then you went on and got it. Um, I don't
Uh,
think, there's a fine line between getting these closed and not. I mean, and if some of those things creep up and you've never dealt with it before, um, depending on your savvy as a realtor slash agent, you know, you can maybe not close it and it creates huge chaos within the transaction. And I don't think people in general, they kind of classify us as all equal, and we are so not.
in that you hit it on the nail. There's two dangerous, I call it dangerous occupations, okay? Banker and an agent. Why? Because they could have very little education, but they have so much power on the things that they could do in behalf of clients, right?
Mhm.
You walk into a big institution, you talk to a banker, and you go, and you ask them, hey, advise me on a HELOC, advise me on a second mortgage, first mortgage. And often than not, even though I have peers that are super knowledgeable bankers, when I was a banker, the reality of it is like 90% don't know anything. They're not educated enough to be advising people, but that still happens no matter what. The same
Well,
thing is
I
with
think
agents.
the difference between a banker and a lender is a banker only has the products that the bank offers. So that's as far as his knowledge might be able to go. That's if he's paid attention to whatever products that bank has. Whereas your lender broker has many different banks to choose and pick from, and automated systems that'll run you through all the hundreds and hundreds of different programs. Whereas I don't know, I suppose banks have that automated system for those products. I really don't know, but it still requires some general knowledge, like you were saying, from them. And how much did they pay attention? I know in our world, you have those realtors that's only done two transactions maybe that year, and it was Aunt Sue and Uncle Bob. So, you know,
Exactly.
how knowledgeable are they really if something comes up and turns into total chaos on a transit? You better hope one of the agents was pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah, so you hit it on the nail. I was a banker years ago, and I remember we were pushed to sell, sell, sell. I even had my securities license, so I was supposed to sell annuities, sell home equities. And to be honest with you, at the beginning, when I was very young, I was winging it. I was like, "Hey, can you do a line of credit?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure. I think we could do 70%." So, bottom line, to your point, uh, bankers are very capped to their products. They don't care. Your boss is not going to say, "Hey, offer what's the best for the client." Offer
Mm-hmm.
what we have available. And then if you have a decent enough boss, he'll say, okay, then if you exhaust everything, then guide him to somebody else that could do it. Those are the good ones. But most of
Mm-hmm.
them go and they try to fit a square in a circle or whatever the case may be. And I've seen it often where the people will lose the deal because the lending was not set up correctly. Well, the same thing with the agents. There's a lot of agents because this topic rise from you saying that there's so many niches. Well,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Real estate's like a tree. There's like 1,000 branches, but people don't realize it. There's people that are focused on non-performing notes. There's people that are focused on triple net leases. There's people that are focused on short-term rentals. There's people that are focused on midterm rentals. There's people that are focused on flips. You name it, there's 1,000 flavors. But people make the mistake of saying, oh, you're a realtor, help me. You're a banker, help me, without really educating themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
That makes
hear
sense.
it all the time. And it's so funny because now with the new laws and stuff out there, with them signing buyer's agreements, basically you're signing that you're going to be loyal to that realtor as well as that realtor is going to be loyal to you. And it's so funny because the transition, I get a lot of, Oh, well, I already have a realtor. I just wanted you to do the work. What? So I think that's a funny transition that I'm seeing a huge trend of this year. It's like, well, it don't really work that way. If you have a realtor, whether they're knowledgeable or not, that's who you need to go with, and they need to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very good for us to be loyal and respect of each other's business. So I'm one that if you're already working with somebody, I'm like, work with that person. That's
That's
the
what
right
I
thing.
say. It's like, well, then you need to get a hold of that realtor.
But the problem is that people don't take the time to, well, first of all, the lack of education in real estate in general to the public is very low. I mean, the very high. I'm sorry, the lack of education. Nobody knows anything. You know more about, maybe you know a little bit about your 401k because your employer provides you some tips and whatever. But when it comes to investing in real estate, even when we're talking about your primary home, we're clueless. I'm telling you, my kids are clueless. They came out of college and they're like, how does this work? How many years do I have to work in a stable job? What do I need to do to qualify? How do I calculate my debt to income? They're clueless, right? People are clueless. So I don't blame people for not picking up the right agents. It's that the whole industry, we don't educate clients enough. So, at least here in US, we don't do that. So my advice to people is do your due diligence.
Hmm.
Why are you trying to do it? And match yourself with somebody that's an expert in exactly what you're looking for, right? That
Hmm.
makes it
Well, ask the questions ahead of time. Don't just jump in and then go, well, that's not what I want. Well, that's, like my specialty is, and I know it's a little different than what you do,
okay.
is I will take the client's home. And I do a lot of probates, divorces,
Nice.
problem that a lot of realtors can't deal with.
Nice.
So there's a need that that home has to be sold. And then I will take contractors in because let's face it, a lot of, times these homes just need a little sprucing up. Sometimes if it's a probate, the whoever passed, was elderly and maybe it's, they were a hoarder or something and they can get pretty run down there in the end. So I will
Yeah.
take and let the whoever owns that home now collect the equity out of it, and I'll take the contractors in and they spruce up whatever needs spruced up so that they can get top dollar, which I get it, kind of takes work out of you wholesalers. But that's what I'm trying to say is there's many different types of agents out there, but that's kind of my specialty. And I have a lot of realtors call me and say, hey, I have this problem house and I don't know what to do with it. And then I will actually complete the project for that other agent, and just, they get paid a fee for bringing it to me. But so my business is quite different than your business. And my business is quite different than, the one that only sold Aunt Sue's and Uncle Bob's house that year. They probably don't have the same skills that I have. So I guess my little 2 cents to people is ask questions, before you jump into a transaction with a realtor, because we're not all created equal, and find the one that helps you with whatever your problems are or whatever's going on with that home. Because let's face it, and you and I both know that you can have two identical homes sitting right next to each other and it's going to go very differently because of what's went on in the past or how they've maintained the home, or did one die versus one's a divorce. I mean, very different transactions. So make sure that that agent can handle whatever's going on that property. I had one where it was a probate and they had like 9 different people on here. We had to get an attorney to track down all the different people that belonged on that house. I mean, they're all just so different. So make sure
I
you
got
have
one
an
for
agent
you.
that can handle that.
I got one for you. There was 9 of them, and one of them was in jail. Uh, and we had to send a lawyer to because it's the only person that could serve what do you call it? Serve them.
Uh-huh.
And they lost the documents twice. we have to extend the closing for 2 weeks. So that's a really good niche to have, Linda. So I'm very proud of you. That's very tough. Let me ask you a question. What is the average turnaround on a probate deal that you've seen based on your experience? From
It depends on how far they're in and how, if the home's vacant or not. I'm finding like I'm working on one right now where the three sisters are ready to go, but they can't get the individual out and they need to be evicted. So, right, that's going to be a longer time because then we still need to get contractors through there and then we have to get it out on the market. So that could be, a 6-month deal. I mean, just to get it cleared and get contractors in and out before we can even hit the market with it. So they're not fast, a lot of those probates. And yet I have one where it's ready to go, other than the sellers can't decide. There's two on that one, and they can't decide. The one's thinking about just buying the other one out, but the other one's like, well, I'm thinking we should just put it out on the market, which we still need to get. Well, they got to agree, right? You can't force anybody to do anything because it's their home. So those two need to come to an agreement which way they're going. So that one could be a month, it could be 6 months. I really don't know until they get into an agreement with what they're doing with the home. And then I've had them where I had one out in Tranquility that had two homes on the property, but nothing worked. I mean, and he was, he'd got elderly and we had to clean it out. That one took us like 3 months just to get the contractors put through, and get two homes cleaned up and, everything working out there. And so that took 3 months. But as far as the title and the probate, that was all ready to go. But that one was actually for another agent. So it's just interesting. They all have life of their own, as far as how it goes. But I would say probably if they're ready to go in the paperwork probate section, contractors typically can get in and out in a single family home, within 6 weeks to 2 months. So probably I would say 2 months to, and I've seen some of those probates. Man, I have some of those probates that still aren't complete because they can't find all the people that's on the probate. So that would be your first step, is get over to a probate attorney and get all the paperwork done. So I have one that I started like 10 years ago and they still haven't located all the people that was on that because, right,
what?
they didn't probate it out when the person died. So now we're dealing with great grandkids and grandkids and I don't know what all's on there. So the attorney, he'll say, well, Linda, I'm still looking for so and so. So it's like,
Linda,
oh,
you know
okay.
what? I'm gonna interview you next in regards to probate because you have so much information and I would love, that's not my expertise. I do some of it through some of my lawyer contacts, but not me directly. It's not. So I would love to interview you if you have the time, maybe the next time around. It better
Sure, definitely. I'm always game. I love real estate and I love, of course, I like you have your expertise and I have my expertise, but I love to chit chat about all of it. So definitely anytime.
Linda, let me ask you something about your audience. What is the audience that watches the your podcast right now?
I think like you, I get a lot of realtors, right, that's trying to learn and trying to build their business, as well as then I get I've had sellers say, hey, I loved your podcast, I want you to sell my house. I've had buyers going, "Hey, Linda, I think I've seen you out there on," because mine goes out onto news channels as well as
Oh, wow.
social media. So depending on where they're at, right, you're trying to catch all these people, as well as sometimes we'll put ads out and different things to where it'll hit a broader audience. But um, it's interesting. So I've gotten all of them. I think realtors on the training part, they kind of look because they know, I'm pretty successful. I'm not, doesn't sound like maybe I do quite as much as you, but my expertise is a little different. I have sold in many different states, and of course, my license covers all of California. So I have even sent contractors up to like Walnut Creek and some, way up north to clean up a property. And And then we've utilized an agent in that area to get that one out and get it out into the public. So I've done many different types of transactions and I've done them all over. I've helped people buy and sell in Kansas and Texas and I don't know, some of those Colorado, some of those other states. So it's just what is it you need for your transaction. So yes, I think my podcasts reach a quite a wide variety, and some of my podcasts are not necessarily directly related to real estate, but it's opening up the community for what's available in your area. Because like you said, I don't think we always know and do our research quite right on certain subjects, certain industries. So I do open the podcast up that might correlate to a realtor, but maybe it's not necessarily correlating to buying and selling a property. So they might be telling me about, you know, business, equipment or something, So it opens it up to many different businesses. So I think it depends on what you're looking for,
Okay.
you know. I think it is real estate related, but sometimes there's many different industries out there that only correlates to maybe a little bit of, maybe just to business in general. So anyway,
Well,
so I think I have a lot of audience from even
okay.
not just real estate. So it's interesting, but I love it.
Well,
Anyway, why don't
say,
you give us your contact information and let people know how they can get a hold of you if they feel
okay,
you're a good fit for them.
fantastic. Well, my contact information, the easiest is looking for Tampa Investing. If you Google Tampa Investing, we're the number one company in Tampa when it comes to investing in properties in Tampa. Or you can reach out directly to us at graystoneig.com, graystoneig.com. Linda, just like you, my audience is everybody. I love networking. I'm at the point that I don't necessarily need to make a sale on a daily basis, but I love talking about it. So
Mhm.
thank you for having me here. And the reason I was asking you is because you could, hey, if you're an agent, listening to this, you wanna connect with Linda and teach you how to become a probate agent, because that's where the money's at. So that's why I was asking. Well, thank you for the time, Linda. I really appreciate it. Once again, GraystoneIG.com, Jorge Vazquez. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, everybody, and make sure you like our channel so that you can keep up on some of the other podcasts, as well as if you want to get a hold of us and join us on the podcast, let us know. Everybody, have a wonderful day. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. My license number is 01997670. Have a wonderful day. And we will include all the contact information down below, everybody.